just a memory, coming out of an airport, and the landscape was so flat and arid and just like dead grass everywhere, kind of like the center states of the United States, but even bigger and wider. I'm in this buggy, and a buggy is a car that's also a truck, and the Dutch driver's named Cowlitz, and Cowlitz is also a professor and a consultant and a really brilliant business person. I didn't know all of that at the time, and there are three other consultants that are there. There's a Frenchman, there's an Aborigines person, I don't remember where the other one was from, and there's me. And I can tell that the Frenchman doesn't really like Americans too much, and I'm feeling that. And I know I have a PhD, and I can tell he doesn't like that too much. And I'm listening to him talk, and I'm not saying anything in this place that I've never been. The landscape changes, and instead of being just dry, it's now dirt. It's just flat dirt. There's not a stick of grass. There's nothing that's growing. And there are chain link fences around these broken down shanties. If you've been to North Carolina, and some of you live there, you know what those tobacco shacks look like on the outside of town, and you know who lived where. Well, these were like that, but worse, because they were locked and padded, and mattresses on the ground, and roofs that were like this. And I looked at these chains, almost bars, outside, and I looked at Cowlitz and asked, well, why are they locked? Huh? Yeah. Change takes a long time, he said. As we got closer into Johannesburg, the landscape changed again, and clearly we were going into a city. And it was not bustling, and it was dirty. The costumes that people wore were not costumes, that was their clothes. It was orange and red, and there were men in khakis, and they were the ANC, the African National Congress people. It was after Mandela was out of jail, and I was with consultants, and our job was to help to select people to be managers and leaders who couldn't read and had never been allowed to write or get an education. We were on our way out to the university, and we were going to work for a week or 2 weeks and help come up with a system for selecting people. I'm feeling like the odd woman out. It's dirty. We turn the corner to head on out to the outskirts of Johannesburg, and all of a sudden we are driving over the most amazing thing I have ever seen. It is a purple haze over our head. It is a canopy. As far as I could see, there were these 30, 40-foot trees in the air and purple spirals everywhere. What is it? I asked Cowlitz. Huh? Don't you have jacaranda trees in America? I didn't know it, jacaranda is really warm. A lot warmer than in Virginia. Or gotta get to Florida. Gotta get someplace I've never lived. And I've never seen so much purple. We get to the university. We have housing there. And I realized after day 2 or 3, we are kept there. There are ANC soldiers or guards that are on the outskirts of the buildings that we're in, and we argue a lot as consultants, and there are only 2 women and about 14 men on this international team. Now, I don't have a PhD, but it happened to come to pass in my life that affirmative action happened. And one of the jobs in the world that I've had is to teach white people who do not like people unless they're white, that they're going to love affirmative action. And so think about telling a member of the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers that nepotism is not going to work, and that you're going to select the next supervisor from a pool of people who are Vietnamese or Black or Mexican. So I did that. I did that all over the United States and developed selection systems where you could predict an aptitude for someone to do a certain kind of job. Not drive a bus, but be the bus driver and have the ability to deal with whatever happens on the bus. And people said, well, you can't do that. And I said, well, yes, you can. It's sort of like Southern hospitality. You got to pick out people who can drive the bus. And spend a year listening to stories of what happened to people, and then putting that together and said, well, this is what you're going to have to deal with, dealing with human beings, and created these selection systems that were stories and videos. And it turned out, I went out and got some PhDs, and they could say to the judge, Your Honor, this doesn't discriminate on the basis of race or age or sex. That does not qualify me in the eyes of the Frenchman. I do not have a PhD. But I had come out of the Civil Rights South, and so I was one of the consultants, and we argued, and we bickered, and we came up with all of these ideas, and I kept saying, let's find the story. Let's find the story. The Frenchman had these metrics and these complicated instruments and validation studies and criterion and content, and the Aborigines man had brilliant ideas, but nobody really listened to him. And so Cowlitz, who was with us for all of this, decided it was time to take us out. We were going to go out to dinner, and I was really happy about that because I'm kind of missing what's going on in South Africa by being in this university conference room. And we go out, and the place looks like a roadhouse, like an American roadhouse. We're going out, and Cowlitz knocks on the door, and they unlock it, and we go in. And I said, why are we locked in the restaurant? Looters. Looters. Change takes time, he said. So we sat down, and there's food. It's French, it's native, it's Dutch. There's a lot of barbecue. Cowlitz orders for all of us. There are 25, maybe 35 people there, and it's dimly lit. It's really nice, and it's finally great to be in South Africa. We're eating, we're talking, and then all of a sudden there's this big noise, like from the kitchen area, thundering kind of clapping noise, and these men rush in. There must have been 10 or 12 of them. They have ski masks on, and Cowlitz grabs me, gets the other people under the table, and I don't know if they were gunshots or pots and pans falling, but we were told to stay to the ground. Cowlitz kept me close and said, they don't want to kill us. Shh. Just shh. After the noise, all I could hear was the breathing of everybody in the restaurant underneath the tables. We got up. They had stolen all the wine and liquor. It would be sold and resold and resold. And Cowlitz explained, there had been such poverty, there was such high crime in Johannesburg. It would take years for people to have jobs, to be able to support themselves. And that was our job. And we were back at the whiteboard, we were back in the conference center. We still hadn't come up with this, we still hadn't come up with that. And I kept saying to the Frenchman, we cannot make this so complicated for people who cannot read and they cannot write. And you're asking questions, and that in any language uses words that are this long. Listen to their stories. We will figure out where they belong in this work world. And then one day, Cowlitz says we're having a visitor, and we'd had people who came from the coal mines and the diamond mines, the sugarcane industry, and we'd talk to people. So we're sitting, we're waiting for a visitor, and in come two men in the brown khakis of the ANC. And in the middle, a man with a gray shirt, short cropped hair, a large and soft smile. And it was Nelson Mandela. I was as shocked as being on the floor of a restaurant locked in. He very quietly told us why we were doing what we were doing. He very gently explained how long it would take to find people who could read and write and lead long after he was out of jail. we would still be working on that. The Frenchman has the audacity to speak back to Nelson Mandela and say it was going to take 5 or 10 years to be able to promote people into leadership if they couldn't read or write. And that slow, such sweet smile came back. And he nodded and said, it will take time. But we have leaders in South Africa. We have as many leaders as we have jacaranda trees. And when you shake the seed pod, stories will fall out. And the Frenchman never spoke to me again.